ahead and fire away.
What is the biggest challenge that Texas Tech will present?
I mean, they're playing really well right now, you know, and defensively, you know, they've been a multiple front. You know, they base out of a 3-4, but they move around. They've got real team speed defensively, and then offensively, you know, they've got a quarterback's completing 71% of those passes. I think he's thrown one pick and 5 touchdowns, and real skill on the outside with the receivers. Vasher is a problem because of his size, 6'5", 6'6", and has played a lot of football. So line's been together, and a veteran offensive line. It's a good football team.
What do you attribute 2 years later to the sloppiness in the second half?
What's that?
What do you attribute to the sloppiness in the second half?
A lot of guys who've never played before, too. But I think there's a lack of focus of with some guys that we talked about, and I addressed that Saturday night. You know, so in this room about what the expectations were for guys to come in the game and to play in this game, and they did not meet those expectations. So, you know, that was communicated after the game, and it'll continue to be communicated.
How did you evaluate Grant and what he was able to do out there?
Well, you know, as I said, the same questions from Saturday night, right? So I gave you that evaluation Saturday night after the game. He was 11, 13 for 100 and some yards and 3 touchdowns. I think that's good enough for any freshman that plays in a game.
Did it look, I guess, after watching the film, though, were there things that you saw that kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, he could have been 13 for 13. Yeah, so, you know, he could have run to the pylon instead of running back into the teeth of the defense when he scrambled, made people miss, you know, stiff-armed a guy. So, you know, you'd be hard-pressed to say, hey, look, everybody can play better, right? But, you know, for a guy to come in a game like that in the second quarter and play the way he played gives him some confidence, gives our team some confidence, and you know, is a great springboard for him.
What's the difference between having a week off to prepare for a team as opposed to just turning back around, since this will be the first time that you're playing back-to-back?
You just said it. Having a week off and then turn around and playing back-to-back. I mean, it's just what it is. You know, we needed that week. You know, with travel, we had some guys that kind of dinged up coming back from Hawaii. So, you know, we were able to play a lot of players Saturday night. You know, and really rest some guys who needed it. Schooler was a little beat up after Hawaii. Some guys, you know, you saw him limping around in the second half of Hawaii, and then, you know, that week gave him a chance to get back, and then he only played, you know, he didn't play the second half the other night. So it's a chance for a lot of these guys who, it's two-part. Number one, you know, we got some guys in the game that got some valuable experience and learned some things. They learned some things that some guys weren't ready to play. Some guys were, and they're going to continue to help us. But we also were able to rest a bunch of guys, and with that rest, you know, hopefully that'll pay dividends this weekend.
Kevin, what's the top thing you're telling your defenders about what they need to do when they're approaching a running quarterback in the field, and that quarterback starts to go into a slide? How are they supposed to handle those situations?
Well, you know, we talk all the time about, you know, what that looks like. I'm not going to get into my feelings about that call. I voiced them during the game to the official. And so, you know, when somebody starts in a slide, particularly a quarterback, you know, they're going to protect the quarterback every time. But, you know, there needs to be some consistency. So we got a quarterback on our own sideline and gets knocked, you know, 5, 6, 7 yards right on their sideline. And if you're going to protect quarterbacks across the board. If not, then there needs to be some consistency in those calls.
When you look at the defense, is it little mistakes, major, that you feel like a close?
There's a little bit of everything from Saturday night. And I think, you know, you got a tale of two halves, too. So, like I said the other night, it's 51-13 at halftime, right? And then, you know, we've got other guys out there. We've got some starters, but we've got a communication problem with some guys that were playing in different positions, some new guys that were out there. We've got some guys jumping out of gaps in the front. And, you know, we had Barr's going to be a great player, and he made some great plays. But at the same time, he jumped out a couple gaps and hurt us. So that's part of a young player coming on, and we need him to come on because he's got real talent. And you know, hopefully Saturday night was not hopefully. I think it's a learning experience for him. You know, we haven't met yet. We'll meet today and talk about those things. But you know, communication between players was an issue. We had some guys in and out of position. You know, some rotational problems, but it's not just one thing. In the second half, there was a number of things.
I know you talked during the preseason about making sure that Colin Schooler didn't play as many snaps as he did last year, which makes sense. But what kind of a difference does it make when he's on the field versus off the field? How important is it to have him?
Well, I just, you know, if you just go by numbers alone, Saturday night, you know, there's a huge impact for him, and but we've got to continue to develop depth. I thought, you know, moving Anthony Pandy around a little bit as a rush, and then playing linebacker, he was extremely active Saturday night. Tony Fields was extremely active Saturday night with Colin being there. But, you know, we've got to continue to bring Day along. And get him more snaps to keep those guys off the field too. So that whole rotation, you know, you feel better about it than last year. But the way that we all know what Tony Fields brings. But I think Anthony Pandy has really raised his level of play, and we need the two young guys to keep coming so that we can really have a rotation that's sound and doesn't drop off.
After 2 games, what's your assessment of the wide receiver group?
You know, you know, we didn't really know what we had, right? Coming into this year, you lost 4 guys. I think if you really, Cedric Peterson Cedric was probably the only guy that had played significantly, him and Stanley a little bit. But I think those two have done a nice job with being consistent and being leaders. Obviously, the addition of Tavion is, this guy can run, right? And he's getting better by the week. He's getting more confident by the week. And, you know, our team's getting more confident in him. And so, you know, he just got here, but he's got real track speed, and he's a tough guy. You know, he's made some tough catches too. So, you know, that's been a really good addition. You know, Boobie Curry has not played. He's been injured, been nicked up a little bit, which will add our depth. I thought Drew Dixon did a nice job Saturday night. He's improving. You know, he's got to be able to use his size and his length. So, you know, and Jamari. So, you know, we're still maybe 1 or 2 guys short, but when Boobie comes back and gets going, if we can get Trey Adams going, if we can get some of these other guys going, we'll have enough depth and enough speed to be pretty good at wide receiver. But right now, you know, the way Drew played the other night, and Stanley and Cedric, I think we're solid. And you know, the addition of Tavion has been really, really helpful.
Was there one that made a big improvement from the Hawaii game to the NAU game?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Drew was better. You know, he made some plays for Grant too. You know, one was that slant was high and behind him. He made that catch in traffic. And like I said, you know, I think Stanley and Cedric have been steady through camp and through those games. I think the addition of Tavion, him coming on, has really, really helped us, particularly from a speed standpoint. And then as a real deep threat and to take the top off of things. And Jamari just keeps getting better every week.
What's the plan for Tavion in terms of his participation in track and field? How extensive were those conversations during his recruiting?
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. You know, like right now, I don't know. We've had, you know, I was at Houston. We had, we've done it before. So, Houston, we had two of the receivers were on the national 4x team. So, we know how to manage that through spring football, and if they can really run, that's all right with me. That means that they can. There's a reason. So and what I've told guys in the past is, listen, whatever the sport is, right? If you can help that other team, whether it's if you can pitch or hit home runs, if you can help them win, then you need to do that, because competition makes you better. When you're in the blocks and it's just you, and the gun goes off, or you got to get the baton, and you're competing. Competition makes you better. But if you're going to go over there and not be a part of actually competing, you need to be working on your craft of football. So that's how we've handled it in the past. We've had a lot of multi-sport guys.
Is that a concern though for him, because last week you said he hasn't played a lot of football?
Yeah, but there's a way to work around that. So there's plenty of time. It's not like you leave football and you don't come back, right? So we've worked around it with baseball players. We worked around it with track guys, and whether it was A&M, whether it was Houston, Oklahoma, with a bunch of receivers that guys that play baseball. So it's we got spring practice, and there's track meets and baseball games. So you'll get enough out of it if you handle it right.
What did you think of Zach Williams' performance, especially as a blocker?
He's really been working at it. And, with Bryce hurt right now, I think, he knew what was coming. It's a little bit different. This was a situation where he had a week or so to really get ready. And it didn't start the way it looked Saturday night. I think it's a different situation when you have that time to prepare instead of all of a sudden getting a game and start blocking. So, we'll see where he is this week, because we're playing a different cat this week. He's got a couple different people that to handle from a linebacker standpoint and a defensive end standpoint that are a lot bigger, a lot faster. So, but I thought he handled it well. I thought he wasn't. It wasn't great all the time, but it was a lot better than he was a year ago this time, and I think he's going to gain some confidence coming out of Saturday night.
What's Bam Smith showing you?
What's that?
What's Bam Smith showing you?
Well, he's it's not just him; it's all five of them, right? So, we know what we got in JJ. I think you saw the real breakaway speed of Gary the other night. He's a bigger guy, and they couldn't catch him. He ran off and left everybody. I think the competition with Michael Wiley is good. There's not enough footballs back there for those guys. I'm trying to keep them happy, right? We're trying to get JJ over 100 yards, and we're trying to get all five of those guys on the field. So we got to run some plays. But I think what you saw us do is try to get our best when you're talking about the receivers. Yeah, we've got a couple guys that are older, but that were consistent. But what we're trying to do now is get our best players on the field. So it's the reason you saw some more two-back sets, some split backs, some offset eye, trying to get those guys on the field and get them touches, whether it's in a screen game or just handing them off because they can make people miss, and they're home run hitters, all of them. But Bam, I think, is a blend of a lot of those guys. He's a little bit bigger than JJ. He's fast. He can change direction. He's got great hands. So, those guys are. They're all. As soon as a week ago we were talking about Michael Wiley, right? And we skip over Gary Brightwell, and who what was that, 93 7-yard? I don't know what it was, touchdown, and JJ still had 100 yards. So that whole crew is working well together. DeMarco's doing a nice job with those guys, and and we haven't even talked about Tilford, right? As a short yardage guy who was extremely effective on the goal line and in short yardage. So we feel good with those guys, and I think what they've done also is take some pressure off of our receiving core with what we're doing by being able to play some two-back sets. And the other piece is JJ. We didn't have to put him back in kickoff return the other night. So we tried a bunch of those different guys back there, whether it was Bam, whether it was Tavion, giving some guys some chances so that we don't have to put all that pressure on JJ like we did last year.
Is
Is that gonna be the way it is moving forward? JJ's not gonna be doing the kickoffs?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that.
Why did you do it the other way? Was it more to rest JJ, or was it more to get looks at other guys?
Both, right? And to get looks at other guys, you know, because a year ago I sat here and everybody's like, why are you putting JJ back there? You know, so it's the first play of offense, and you know, there's a risk there, sure, but it also paid off sometimes last year with him as a returner. And let's be honest, you know, that's you're looking out for your guys because, you know, at the next level, he's gonna have to do that anyway.
Do you guys like returning kicks?
What's that?
Do you guys like returning kicks?
Yeah, they either like it or they don't, right? So you got those guys back there that you know, some guys doing something. It takes a different guy, right? So you know, you can't. I've done this a long time, and it's hard to make a guy into a kick returner. Right? You either got to want to do it or not want to do it, and if you don't want to do it, that's going to show up sooner or later, either with how you handle the catching the ball or bringing it out or not. You know, what happens when you come out. So, you know, fortunately we had. I thought our returners did a pretty good job. I was a little concerned about Tavion. He caught one probably 5 deep, and which he shouldn't have brought out. He brought it out and ran hard. Got 20-some yard return. So, you know, he showed what he can do. We know what Bam can do. You know, we haven't had Wiley back there a bunch, but he's been back there, and you know, all those things are taking a little bit more pressure off of JJ than last year. I mean, it's because he did all that last year with kickoff returns and carrying it, you know, rushing for 1,400 yards. You know, we want that same production, but we also want to mix it up a little bit.
With a kid like Tavion and the success he had doing that in junior college, like when he gets here now, what are you looking at him to, or how are you evaluating him in those initial practices and what he does?
Well, we've had a bunch of practices in a lot of different situations with him. So, you know, like I said, it was a little bit easier during fall camp to evaluate these. When you have a known commodity like JJ, you can take those reps away a little bit and get all these other guys in and practice, right? And see what they can do. And really, that's what Saturday night was about too, to see some, you know, a different coverage, a different scheme, some live competition, you know, under lights, and putting those guys out there. So, you know, he handled it. He handled it pretty well. We'll talk today about whether he should bring it out. And he thinks he's really fast. He's feeling confident. I'm not a fan of bringing it out 5 deep now. So we're gonna have that conversation today too. So you know, we're gonna get the ball at 25, not the, you know, it back there. But that tells you kind of confidence he's got in himself and speed. Just to your question, a kick returner is a kick returner. Some guys aren't.
This week's game figures to be pretty high scoring. Do you feel like in the fourth quarter it's going to boil down to which defense can get that extra stop or extra turnover?
I don't know. I think you know, everybody makes the fourth quarter, but this game's going to be like that from the start. You know, so you don't know. You know, everybody's going to point to certain plays during the game. You know, in the end, but a game like this with explosive teams, offenses, and you know, it's gonna start that way, right? And the goal is to get off the field on third down for both teams, right, and stay on the field, and then you know, who's going to hang on to the ball? Who's, I mean, not from a time of possession standpoint, but a turnover margin standpoint, could be a big factor in this game.
Is there extra pressure on the offense to score every time because of the back and forth track meet potential?
I don't know. I mean, if there's pressure on our offense, there'd be pressure on theirs too, right? So, you know, that's football. You know, we talked about. We'll talk about it today. You know, the offense's job is to score one more point than the opponent to win, and the defense's job is just try to stop them every time. Does that work? No, but that's your goal. That's where you work as a team and special teams wise too. So. All three of those factors will be in play, you know, as the competition increases, right? You everybody's looking for matchups, but as the competition increases and you play better teams, all three phases are involved in winning games like this.
What's your assessment of the punting so far?
It's been, I was just talking about that. You know, it's been hit or miss, right? So 38 yards is not good enough. And the way the ball's being punted is you know, we had a line drive, we had a short one, but you know, that's about the same as it was a week ago, right? For 38 yards. So we went with the young guy this week. We'll have another competition this week. So we'll see where we are. You know, we'll do a little bit today, but we don't really punt them much today. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we'll have a little competition, and whoever comes out of that, you know, is who we're going to play. You know, nobody even noticed our long snapper during the game. We had the freshman in there long snapping, and that's the ultimate compliment, right? If you don't even notice the guy, then he's done a hell of a job during the game. But I was a little nervous about him, but he did a nice job. So that part was pretty good. I think that you know, we'll see where we are between the two punters this week, and whoever wins this competition this week's going to start.
More questions for Coach?
And it'll be like that for a couple positions this week, right? So guys that have played a little bit and maybe not have been as effective. You know, we're not in the business of just throwing guys on the bench, but we're gonna have some competitions across in some of these positions where guys who have been inconsistent. And then, you know, I think that's the fair way to do it. You know, if you can prove during practice, and we're not getting production out of a position, but if you can prove during practice and compete that way during practice, then, you know, you're going to earn the right to start and play. And that's where we are right now.
Were you happy with Christian Roland Wallace's performance against NAU?
Well, you know, it's he started slow. And I think we had a couple guys, you know, some of these young guys that were a little, it was kind of weird, you know. It just started slow. I thought Bobby Wolf started slow. You know, a couple different, these young guys that just were kind of out there. And then they picked it up, right, at the end. But that's, when you got young guys, you know, that's part of the problem, with the inconsistency, some things that happen. And I think, you know, hopefully that was a learning process for Christian, because, you know, later on he's made a heck of a play, right? And, you know, early in the game, he grabs a guy and then stops running and lets the guy see him, like, what are you doing, right? And so then he comes back in the end and he leaves his guy, goes, flies and makes an interception. You know, he's got great talent. But, you know, that's the part, you know, the three areas of preparation we talk about all the time is physical, which is coaches and you, mental, which we are going to help you too, with game plan and everything else. But the emotional piece, you got to bring yourself. And I think for a young player, that part becomes important, because you can't play this game just kind of walk out there and play. You can do that in high school because you're probably better than a lot of guys, right? But then when you step out there now and everybody's like you better emotionally be ready to go, or you'll get exposed.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you.